Live from News Channel 8 in Tampa, Florida, this is Bucs Bonus on WFLA Now. Powered by 1-800-ASK-GARY.
The Bucs score favorable reviews with their draft picks led by first-rounder Kancey, but some are ready to sink the Bucs in the NFC South already. The picks you can see, they're in camp. The schedule, we have it in-house. Can we just get on with the NFL season already? Are you guys ready?
As soon as the schedule comes out, it's like, okay, let's play.
100 days? Are we under the 100-day mark?
Ooh, that's always a good milestone.
I think we're somewhere around there.
We are excited for football here on Bucs Bonus, powered by 1-800-ASK-GARY, right here on WFLA Now. Bucs insiders Dan Lucas, Karen Loftus. Of course, your official Bucs station is News Channel 8. We're here to break down a little bit of the post-draft chatter as far as your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And before we get to some of the disrespect that exists out there, because you see the banner on the bottom of your screen if you're watching this program right now, you can see what DraftKings is projecting for the Buccaneers.
Cody Mock. Sorry, we can't talk over that picture scrolling
Look at that
through.
hair. Look at the flow.
Ryan Jensen, Co-Keeft, and Cody are all.
I love it.
Before we talk DraftKings, because we're going to be talking about their analysis quite a bit, let's talk about the draft picks. Who would like to go first? Give me a letter grade for how Jason Light and the front office did as far as drafting the next crop of Tampa Bay Bucs.
Dun, dun,
but let's do 1, 2, 3 and say ours at the same time.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, B+.
Wow, did that really just happen?
We did not plan it. I promise.
You would be amazed at the similarities.
It's crazy.
Karen, why don't we start with you?
Yeah.
B+, why?
I think they got a lot of high character, talented players. They wanted physicality and they wanted speed. And I think you see that especially in the first couple rounds of the guys that they got. And also, Jason Light had said, we want guys to build for the future, but if they can contribute right away, that's a bonus. And I think several of these, whether you're talking Cody, Yaya, Payne even, and of course Kalijah, I think those guys, you're going to see them contribute even more than just special teams.
Dan, what do you think?
I agree with Karen's assessment, and I think that Kalijah Kancey will be a massive impact in year one. It's going to put pressure on last year's their top pick, which was really a second rounder, Logan Hall, to step up his game a little bit in year two. But Kancey next to Vita Vea, that's a home run in my opinion, and the guys haven't even suited up for a practice together yet. So that's going to be a good thing. Cody Mauch is going to compete and probably win the right guard competition as a rookie. That's a big decision by the Bucs, who, by the way, as we've learned, it's not as doom and gloom on this offensive line as we first thought. They've really shifted some things. They picked up the free agent Filer and have plugged one spot. So they were really searching for one spot here going into training camp, and they drafted to that. A guy who put on a show at the Senior Bowl, played all 5 positions on the line at the Senior Bowl. At North Dakota State, he was a tackle, and he did everything. He snapped the football.
Did everything, and that's like solidified. That's like exactly what the Bucs want, is somebody who's versatile. How many times have we heard him say that?
I think it's the same thing Robert Hainsey did.
Yeah.
And then Hainsey wound up being the center while Ryan Jensen was out. And Hainsey was never a center, ever.
Yeah,
so
the versatility
that shows what they think of these guys, and I think Cody Mauch's going to fit in. So back to the overall assessment, Kancey's going to have a big contribution, and I am expecting 2 guys that I can't wait to see play, Yaya Diaby and, Servassier Dennis, I'll throw him in there because inside linebacker, if it becomes a depth issue, he's going to have to perform. Levante David and Devin White, if once something happens, knock on wood, we don't see that, but he will have to come in and play. But Payne Durham, the tight end, I can't wait to see him in this offense.
When he said, so we were talking about just his amount of touchdowns, and he said he had a coach who says, if you're in the red zone, nobody else is getting the ball. And they would he said practices were miserable if you dropped the ball or somebody else got the ball. And that was something that I thought was really interesting. He's like, that's how I play the game, is that especially in the red zone, nobody else is getting the ball. That's mine.
Yeah, Payne Durham, who played a little bit of youth football, but did not play high school football until a coach, it might have been the football coach at his high school, made a bet. He wanted him to come out for football. Payne's like, nah. And he goes, I'll tell you what, they were in the gym with the basketball. And he said, if I hit this 3-pointer, you have to come out to a practice. And that was the bet. So he was, all right, fine. So the coach nails the three-pointer.
Doesn't know he's a sharpshooter.
Exactly. Doesn't know that he's basically dealing with a ringer who knows how to shoot the ball. So Payne Durham goes out to football practice to see what it's all about. And 5 years later, he tells the story of how he calls his coach all the time to say thank you. He played every season at Purdue.
Yeah,
all four
of
his seasons.
So many good stories.
Yeah.
And it's going to be fun, I know, for the two of you to cover the Bucs all season long, especially with some of the youth that's been injected into this squad as we look at the post Tom Brady era. So as I do, after the draft, I love looking at the draft grades. You look at ESPN or you look at Sports Illustrated, CBS Sports. You look at all the different draft grades that come out, and most had the Bucs, in a relatively good B range as far as the quality of the picks that they made at the respective rounds where they had their picks. But in the last week or so, a lot of different rankings have come out, power rankings in particular, Vegas odds, sports books putting out where the Buccaneers are going to finish this season, or at least where they enter the 2023-2024 NFL season. And it has not been kind as far as where the Buccaneers begin the season. So I'm going to rattle through a few, and then we have a caller on the line that we're going to go to here in just a moment. Vegas Insider, which aggregates a lot of sports books in Las Vegas, has the Buccaneers as 29th most likely to win the Super Bowl this season. NFL.com, their power rankings, 29 out of 32 teams are the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. ESPN's power rankings, 30th out of 32nd. And then, of course, on WFLA.com, sports writer Kancey Sloan published a story that's been getting a lot of attention. DraftKings says the Bucs are favored. Now, individually, over the 17 regular season games, the Buccaneers are favored to just win one game, a home game against Carolina.
By a point, right? They favored
right, a point. So the other 16, the opposition is favored. That did not sit well with our regular caller here on this program.
Hello, JB. This is Buckafire Bird. I just want to let you guys know that I really appreciate having the opportunity to talk to you guys in May, coming off of going to Kansas and everything. I just want you to also know that the Buccaneers didn't address the line like I thought at pick number 1, but throughout the entire draft, the Buccaneers hit every area that I thought was necessary in order to take us to the next level.
Optimism.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about this pick. I mean, the people picking the Buccaneers to win, bettors to pick the Buccaneers to win just one game. I have a serious problem with that, mainly because those same experts probably didn't pick the Bucs to play against the Kansas City Chiefs and beat the Kansas City Chiefs and win the Super Bowl. But I just also want to say there's no way possible that they are going to be right. They're going to be eating crow. Take it to the bank. They will be eating crow. There's no way the Buccaneers can win just on one game. We are going to be back-to-back division champs. That's all I have to say. I promise you. And I have the lights on the next time I'm on the show. Buccaneers.
For
the
him.
ship
He's
head
going to light up the pirate
have
ship.
lights on. All right, I'm out.
Oh,
man, Buckified Bert.
He was taking that personal.
I'll tell you this. If he had a national poll, they would be favored to win 17.
Obviously.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no
17.
doubt.
I've asked him in the past, he asks me, what do you think when the schedule comes out? And I'd give him, the 10-6, because they're pretty decent, and he'd just walk away. He just thought that was
not what he wanted to hear.
Terrible prediction.
Well, let's clear up some of the confusion because the DraftKings report, right? DraftKings are not saying that the Buccaneers are going to be going 1-16 on the regular season.
Right.
They are saying that in each individual game, these are the odds as far as where the line is on bets. And right now,
it's where we stand today.
Exactly.
Is basically what they're saying. It doesn't account for. First of all, I love these things because they're doing what we're doing. They get you talking about it. But the reality of it is, this is the snapshot of the Bucs today. If you're upset at the opinion of the nation, the national media or the odds makers, it's just the snapshot, and it gives you something now to look at during training camp and when the season finally begins. Can the Bucs prove that wrong? These will all change as we go, and when the season starts, these don't take into account injuries, other teams surging, other teams that are stumbling out of the gate, teams that hit a wall halfway through the season. We all know how that works. And every year there's a team that's predicted to just roll everyone, and they're barely fighting for a playoff spot, and then the other way around.
So it intrigues me because in one side of it, you think about, okay, well, yeah, the Bucs have a lot of new pieces, a lot of different things, new offensive coordinator, no Tom Brady, a lot of different players.
They're being punished for the Tom Brady thing.
I think so.
Sure. Yeah.
Like in comparison to having Tom Brady, it's like when you have the greatest quarterback of all time, there's going to be a drop off. But then it's like you look at other teams in the league and it's like they have new players. They have unproven talent also. So you can't even use that argument that like, oh, well, we just don't know what the Bucs are going to bring this year because they have unproven people. But it's like you can't say that all the teams that they're playing.
I think the thing is when you compare the moves just within the NFC South, the Bucs had the least sexy offseason. You know, the Panthers make this great move. They trade up for the number 1 pick.
Right.
And they've got their franchise quarterback, they think. David Carr is coming into the division. The Atlanta Falcons on paper might be the strongest team overall based on the moves they made. And then there's the Bucs, who didn't really add a substantial piece, a big piece. They added a name in Baker Mayfield, and dare I say, there's that snickering from that addition. So that's what the Bucs are up against from an image standpoint as we stand today. But they're not gonna. I don't think they even read that stuff.
No, I don't think so either. That's wild though to be favored in only one game.
The one thing I did notice, and it was funny because you'd mentioned the NFL.com poll, JB. Were they 30th out of the 32?
They were 29th on NFL.com.
So NFL.com also, they dive into all these analytics and they forecasted every team over under wins, and the Bucs came in at 6.4, which is very intriguing because if you're going to go to the betting, you're going to say 6 or 7 or more, and I'm telling you, 7 or more sounds very enticing. So if they win 7 games. That makes them 7-10 for the season. That is not 30th in the league.
No.
So
that's a good way to put it. Yeah. I like how you sort of.
And I think that's a little more realistic based than in the DraftKings odds.
I love the point that you made about what our divisional opponents have done so far this season. You're right. Bryce Young, obviously, with the Panthers number 1 overall. Derek Carr coming to the Saints. Perhaps they finally get their quarterback situation stabilized, but there's been so much made. We were talking on the last episode of Bucs Bonus about Bijan and how awesome that would be if somehow he fell to the Bucs.
Good one.
That seems like a pipe dream now, right? That because he went, of course, so early to the Falcons, but a lot of hype on social media exists right now around Bijan Robinson joining an already really good running offense for the Falcons, at least as far as the NFC, because they have Algier, who had a pretty good season. They have Cordero Patterson, who's kind of this do-it-all. So then you add Bijan Robinson, who they're playing at wide receiver, testing out at wide receiver a little bit too. They're going to have him catching balls as well. So yes, the Buccaneers flying a little bit under the radar. But I want to go to the schedule here because week 7 at home against the Falcons, DraftKings has the Falcons as a 1-point favorite. The Falcons still have a lot of question marks, Dan. Do they not, especially at quarterback? I think Desmond Ridder the guy?
I think that's an example of the picture of the franchises right now in the month of May after the moves they've made. I think people are just assessing it and basing it on perceptions, and because usually in the NFL the home team, unless it's a drastic difference, is a good team versus a struggling team. The home team usually is favored by 1 or 3.
Right. I'm like, it's 1 point.
Yes. It's 1 point, which is as close as you get to a pick 'em.
Yes.
I would think with the Falcons coming to Ray J that it's Bucs by 3.
Yeah.
That would be my first.
And that's when you get to
assessment.
like talking about all these of like who's favored. It's like, what are they favored by?
Exactly.
What are their opponents favored? Are the Bills favored by 1 point? Not really. But or are they favored by like 14?
The games that are looming on this schedule, the Bucs are substantial underdogs. One of them's double digits, and it might be the San Francisco game. It's escaping me. I did see one that was double digits. So
yeah, I haven't looked at the points of what the.
I think that if you're going to look at a point spread, look at week 1. Minnesota Vikings,
Right.
7 points. That is a very difficult opener for the Bucs. The Vikings, who are loaded with expectations, they won their NFC North last year. Opening up at home inside the dome, it's loud in there. I've been in it for Vikings games. It's a lot of fun. But
and Bears, Eagles, and
task.
Saints.
Yeah. So
and then a bye week. They have a very early bye week.
An early bye week, which gives you 4 weeks, in my opinion, JB, 4 weeks. I don't know if record matters, but that is Baker Mayfield's resume. And that is him on the clock for 4 weeks. And then at week 5 bye week, if it's not working, then we could see Kyle Trask.
Wow. Very
You said it.
That's where you would make that move.
Okay.
The one game I have circled on this as we look here, and if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or perhaps on Spotify, we're looking here at WFLA.com. Casey Sloan did a write-up from DraftKings doing the individual point spreads on every game for the Bucs this season. The one I have circled, week 2, Bears coming into town for the home opener for the Bucs, and the Bears a 1.5 favorite. This is a team that is still considered in a massive. I get that Justin Fields is an exciting
right,
player,
exactly.
but that's the one I have circled, and I said, wait, really?
Yeah.
Home opener, Raymond James Stadium, Baker's first game as a Buck in front of the fans here in Tampa, and the Bears coming into town to perhaps be the favorite?
It was a game last year, I believe, that was a little bit closer than it needed to be. Correct? I'm trying to go through the teams they played last year, and the Bucs escaped. Atlanta at home, definitely Carolina at home was closer than it needed to be, and both New Orleans games were close. And those games may not be. That was 2 wins for the Bucs last year. That might not be 2 wins this year. I think the Saints are the team to beat in the NFC South right now, even though the Falcons are probably the best team on paper.
Yeah, I don't think that's changed. Yeah.
Yeah, the Bears is a game. If you're going to go just the first 4 weeks, and you think they're going to go 2-2, which I think would be terrific.
Yep.
The Bears, it has to be a win.
Right.
Has to be, and then you got to try and maybe, I don't know, you maybe steal one against the Eagles at home, a great crowd at night, Monday Night Football, or you go in and just slug it out with the Saints, which is it is what it is.
That's the way they
is
go.
what it is.
If the Bucs escape into the bye at 2-2, it's a massive win, right? Because Eagles are tough. Eagles are Super Bowl contenders. Vikings are 7-point favorites, and they're obviously a fantastic team. And we talked about it last season. Going into New Orleans and winning, that's probably the toughest place in the division to win on the road.
Certainly.
Especially the last several years, too,
Yes.
where like the rivalry has just built and built and built.
But the Saints are, what's funny about the Saints is every team, well, I say every team, the Bucs, the Panthers, and the Falcons consider the Saints. That's the one they circle.
Yeah.
And it's the one in the Superdome that they circle as we've got to get through this. A great home field advantage for the Saints and why they're always a good home team. But the other thing I'll mention about the schedule, JB, you come out of that bye week, so you got 13 straight weeks of football. There are big matchups that are spread out, and in the middle of those games are very winnable. A chance for the Bucs to get on a roll. If they go into the bye week with some momentum and feeling pretty good, things are hopping, get healthy for this stretch. I call it the stretch run, but the remainder of the games, you're looking at 1 or 2 wins at least before you go to Buffalo, and then you come home. You play Houston and Tennessee before you play San Francisco, Indianapolis and Carolina before you go to Green Bay. I mean, that's 6-7 possible wins on the backside. Now, if you win 2 before the bye week, now you're at 9.
Mm-hmm.
That might win the division.
Wow.
So,
Yeah, I think you need to tell Albert that.
Yeah. Albert's. He would not want to hear what I just said because here's how Albert would say it. Ready? JB, I'm looking at the schedule. I don't see a loss on here. 17-0. Yeah. That's his assessment of the schedule.
Now, I am usually on this program the glass half full kind of guy. I'm gonna pump the brakes for a second. Let's just say we're gonna go down, and I'm sorry, Bucs fans, we're gonna go down a really scary scenario here because I'm dying to ask Dan and Karen about this scenario. let's just say it's a tough start to the season because you open at home, or excuse me, you open on the road against Minnesota. The Bears are, people are saying this could be the year where they finally start to really make some noise. Eagles at home on Monday Night Football. Eagles are a great team, and then you have to go into New Orleans. The nightmare scenario is you're going into the bye 0-4.
Right.
At that point, how much chatter is there about Caleb Williams out of USC and whether or not the Buccaneers should be looking to the future if Bucs fans aren't sold as Baker Mayfield?
Oh, well, the national perspective will be if they're 0-2, they'll start that.
Right. Oh, my gosh.
It'll start right away.
I can't even fathom thinking that. Like, I'm like, that's just so dramatic.
I think
JB.
Karen just had such an out-of-body experience.
Wow.
I hope that our listeners can't see her reaction, but
I
she
just
looked at me
don't like the overreactions. Like, that's just like automatic eye roll.
I also think that you're catching the Bears in week 2. I think that would be better than catching them in week 11 or 12, because I think the Bears are going to put it together, but I think it's going to take time. I think you're catching the Bears at the perfect time. Take the heat and 1 o'clock out of it. It's hot in Illinois in late August, so they're going to be acclimated to that. But I just think the Bucs win that game at home in their home opener. And the other thing is the mystery of this Dave Canales offense and his idea of running the ball more and protecting it more. How do Mike Evans and Chris Godwin fit in with that? And now that you've added a very, very good tight end as a rookie who's going to get on the field with Cade Otton, how do those guys fit in? What happens? This is hypothetical, but what happens if the Bucs come out of the gate here and after a couple of games, like, man, this team scores points, and the opponent never gets the football?
I like. Do you hear Dan's Dan's optimism.
He's all in on the running.
It's hard to
loving
well,
it.
here's the thing that the Bucs fans are. It just stings from last year is what we saw the same, and nothing changed. It ultimately cost Byron Leftwich his job, and you could make a case that even Tom Brady down the stretch was at fault trying to make things happen. By the time they got to the playoffs, we saw what we saw in the wild card game. That did not suffice.
The thing that intrigues me about Dave Canales' offense is the idea that he says we need to be prepared to run it every play. But if the game doesn't dictate that being the most effective method to move the ball, then we'll act accordingly. So I like that he's presenting this like, yes, I like the run. I like the ability, like we need to be prepared to do that, but we also understand the offensive weapons we have in the pass catching game. So hearing that from the beginning and just hearing how his mind works about adapting and doing whatever the game calls for, not even like what you game plan for, but being able to adjust it as the game goes on. Like be physical and then know the other weapons that you have.
Yeah. I'm curious to see how Godwin and Evans fit in with Baker Mayfield, because Mayfield, you're now bringing in, hear me out here, because we've gone through 3 seasons of Tom Brady.
I love how it starts like that.
Hear me out. I'm going to throw out a name here. And
wow, okay.
It's going to be, please don't email me. We're going kind of back to Jameis Winston times, where Jameis was a little bit more mobile than people gave him credit, and he could extend plays in that fashion. Jameis's downfall was his bravado at the end of extending those plays, and he would throw it into an area or to
the other team,
that the other team was going to make the catch only. And Baker Mayfield now comes into play with better mobility than Jameis, and I can see him extending plays. Where do Evans and Godwin fit in with that? Is this going to turn into Baker not improvising, but Baker scrambling more if a play breaks down rather than the pass play proceeding as it was planned, and Baker gaining 8 yards on the ground and having that become an effective option? I'm thinking of Geno Smith and the Seahawks revival and how it fit in with Canales. He wasn't calling the plays, but this was kind of the theme of that he was allowed to extend plays, and if he needed to get him with his feet, that was fine. Tom Brady did not do that. He ran a couple of times, and what did we do? We talked about it for 3 days because it was the craziest thing we've ever seen.
It was like we had never seen a quarterback run ever.
Even he made fun of it. So that's not what his game was. He would take a lot of sacks that I don't think Baker's going to take. My question is, does Baker chuck the football up there like Jameis did carelessly and turned it into a complete disaster? According to Dave Canales, that is not the philosophy to just chuck that football.
To that point, can Baker make that throw down the seam to Mike Evans that we saw Brady, attempt to complete multiple times over the course of last season? We all remember the various Mike Evans opportunities, some of them, of course, that were not caught. I think those are the ones that we remember that stick out in our mind. But can Baker make that throw consistently? Is that something that...
I mean, I feel like that's the big question mark. But there were times when Mike Evans even said... Like, I caught so many passes or had all those touchdowns in the one game because Brady just is on the money.
Right.
That's like a Hall of Fame quarterback. So I don't know if you even want to get into that territory of trying to compare Tom Brady's abilities to Baker's, but you would hope that Baker would be able to, in moments, complete the throws that were necessary.
Right. Of course, the offense is going to be fascinating. Let's really quickly talk about defense, which... we have a couple of variables here. Let's first talk about our first-round pick, Kancey. None of us had that, by the way, on our pre-draft episode.
I didn't even pick
Bucs
the
Bonus.
Position.
Nope.
I wasn't even near on the pick.
We were all wrong.
I thought it was O-line all the way.
For the record,
O-line.
When we were all watching, live. I was at home, and I was thinking back. I was thinking back to the conversation that we had during our episode, and I'm thinking, as soon as all of those O-line, the offensive linemen are off the board, I'm thinking, okay, Bucs are trading back. Bucs are trading. But then all of a sudden the pick was in, and it's Kancey. And what do you guys make of the first rounder as far as a defensive weapon for Todd Bowles and crew?
Well, the first reaction was that they got one of the fastest defensive linemen in the combine, fastest in college football last year, and comes in and is one of the fastest in the NFL. As a matter of fact, after he ran his first 40 at the combine, what did he run? 4.63 or 4.64, somewhere there, which is super fast for a man that size. The NFL Network superimposed him over the Rams.
Aaron Donald.
Aaron Donald of the
Yep,
Rams, who had a split hundredth of a second faster in his combine run, and they were dead even for almost the entire 40. Donald pulled away at the last second on when they superimposed them. So, and Kancey chuckles because he loves Aaron Donald. He's a Pitt guy, 2 Pitt Panthers, idolizes him, and he knows that he's being compared to him, but he says, guys, please don't.
Yeah.
I think he's just being respectful. The point is, Aaron Donald plays a game this way of the get off on the snap, to the ability to beat his man and get through to the quarterback and stop the run. And we're kind of inheriting the same thing.
Yeah, I think Jason Light said off the charts athleticism.
Yeah.
And even if you watch him in his combine 40, not only was he fast, but he didn't look like he was laboring through it at all. He was cruising. And I asked him, I was like, were you surprised? Because he had shoulder surgery. So I was like, were you surprised? Obviously I know this is your shoulder and you're running with your legs, but it's all connected. He's like, no, I wasn't really surprised. I was pretty fast. So I was like, okay.
Yeah, I think it's a terrific pick. And it was nowhere near what I thought they were going to get. And when they did it and you heard this, and this, I thought, wow, this is why Jason Light is in his shoes, is Jason Light. He's
picked some good ones.
The Bucs just, they just sit there. Whenever you see the room, the video of them in their draft room, they're not carrying on. They're just normal. There's no panic. They know exactly what they're going to do.
Yeah.
And on that night, I think he hit a home run. We'll see.
Well, the last time the Buccaneers drafted a freak of nature in the first round, someone who was jumping out of pools, literally, it was Tristan Wirfs. And we all know how that turned out for the Bucs. We can only hope it's the same on the other side of the football. Staying on defense real quick, also a big part of now the offseason storyline for the Buccaneers is what happens with Devin White. We talked about it a little bit in the last episode, and now there's rumblings and grumblings about whether or not there's going to be some solution in place regarding his contract. Any movement, or is it dead silence right now? Is it radio silence with Devin White and the Bucs?
Yeah, I haven't heard anything else.
Well, the defensive coaches spoke a couple of weeks ago, and the direct links to Devin White said that they are behind the scenes. They are preparing for a holdout. So we may not see Devin White, at least at the start of training camp. I seriously doubt we see him at any of the voluntary workouts start up here next week, and OTAs and the mini camp in June. So I doubt we see that. What I don't like about it is Devin White and his representation know the Bucs cap situation, and they know what's at stake. If the Bucs budge and say, all right, you know what, let's just get a deal done. We need you in here. That could harm several other pieces of the team. That's how tight they are on money-wise. That's to me, was why I'm sitting here scratching my head if there's going to be a resolution.
But to the
so
defense,
mandatory mini camp is June, was it 3rd through the 6th? It's like first week of
Early
June.
June, yes.
June. So,
but to the defense of Devin White and his representatives, if they're thinking, okay, the Buccaneers are not in a position cap space wise, given all the carryover from Tom Brady in that era of Buccaneers football, if the Buccaneers are not financially equipped to pay me, then trade me to a team that does have the cap space to trade me. Is that what they're thinking, just to defend him for a second and play devil's advocate?
Yeah, I think his market value is what he's asking. I think for sure. I know he had his ups and downs performance-wise on the field. The thing is, he's going into the end of a rookie contract where some guys that are in danger of not getting a second contract are just trying to play that contract out and earn money. He's wagering on himself for an elite linebacker salary. Mm-hmm. He knows he's playing. He would like to play here, but he knows what he's worth, and he would like to get that issue. Other players do get that contract before the option year, and he has not. So that's what's kind of got the ball rolling in this direction.
Well, to Dan's point, I feel like there were some games last year, Karen, too, with Devin White, where he looked like the Devin White of old, the Devin White when we were playing for a Super Bowl, and then other times it felt like he vanished on the field of play. So is consistency also a theme with Devin White?
I don't think so. I don't think he needs to prove anything else.
Okay.
I think everybody knows the caliber of player that he is.
And obviously how he fits in with this team and Levante David and the rest of the core there. Obviously, there's good mojo with the Buccaneers on defense, just a matter of how this situation unfolds in the weeks ahead. We're going to let you know about it on WFLA.com, the WFLA app. Any developments in the situation regarding Devin White, we'll be posting it, of course. Sports writer Kancey Sloan will be handling all of our Buccaneers content on WFLA.com, the WFLA app. We're going to be paying very close attention here at WFLA, your official Bucs station, as to what develops between now and, of course, the kickoff to the NFL season. The Buccaneers open on the road against Minnesota. Will the sports writers and will Vegas be more kind or less kind to the Bucs as the next few months unfold? We'll let you know about it. Any final thoughts before we wrap up this episode, Dan and Karen?
I'm looking forward to the workouts when these rookies mesh with the veterans, because I want to hear I want to hear the veterans talk about the rookies, because this is a mature group. That was the sense I got. All of them were, they were well spoken, and they had great things to say. And every single one of them that spoke to us, first thing they wanted to say was, "I'm learning as quickly as I can." They want to contribute, and a few of them are going to, and all of them want to make the team.
I feel like maybe I'm just, recency bias, but I feel like it was more than normal in talking to the rookies, like how many of them were over the top, just studiers, nose in the playbook. Mm-hmm. Not saying others weren't, but they were all very vocal about wanting to get up to speed and very excited about being a sponge. I heard that a lot.
I just listened to a little bit of Trey Palmer, the wide receiver from Nebraska, and he was kind of being asked, "What are your hobbies?" Reading the playbook, right? Taking naps,
exactly.
So
football. He's
definitely a football holic for sure. Another guy, by the way, a draft 6th rounder, who he's going to have to battle his way onto the team at the bottom of the receiver core. But his niche. What did he run at the combine in 40?
4.33.
4.33.
Keith Armstrong's gonna love him.
First day. What am I doing with him, JB? I'm putting him out there to catch punts.
Yep.
And that's gonna be his thing.
Keith.
And to your point about seeing veterans mix with the infusion of rookies, is there any pairing more exciting than Ryan Jensen and Cody
I was
Mauch?
like, you better say that.
I mean, because
people are forgetting about O'Keefe too. Like,
that's right.
like the three of them. I want a picture of the three of them.
Well, when
family photo.
When Keith is out there in the tight end spot, right alongside potentially Mauch, Jensen at center, and then Mauch at the guard position, and the three of them are out there.
Yeah.
Well, in the middle of that, JB,
look at the flow.
In the middle, you're going to have Luke Gedeke with a buzz cut. So I asked Mauch if he was going to talk to Luke about growing his hair out, and he said, "Well, he may want to consider it." And I thought and I asked after we were done, I go, "You're already a marketing guy, aren't you?" And he goes,
It's going to be fun times for the offensive line this year, as long as they can protect that guy, Baker Mayfield. Folks, that's going to do it for this edition of Bucs Bonus on WFLA Now, powered by 1-800-ASK-GARY. Buckified Bert, real quickly, a shout out to him. He just gave out his scholarship to another young recipient, Sophia. So where's the applause?
Congratulations.
She came by the station.
For Buckified Bert, who our super fan here at WFLA, who of course calls into every edition of Bucs Bonus and has his scholarship program that is just such a great initiative, such a great effort. So we really love to see Buckified just glowing, his smile ear to ear when he does when he participates, of course, in his scholarship. All your Bucs headlines, folks, on WFLA.com, the WFLA app, and you can of course watch Bucs Bonus on WFLA Now on WFLA.com, YouTube, and then you can listen on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Be sure to give Dan Lucas and Karen Loftus a follow on social media for all things Bucs football. And as we end out this episode, we always say, go Bucs.